Yeah, I'm here.
And we are here. We're live. Welcome to the Maple Minds podcast. I'm Christy. That's Rob. And that's not Polly at the end. That is special guest appearance by our friend Fran, who has done lives with us. She's doing the show as a guest spot. And you'll notice that Polly isn't up in the boxes. She's still around. She's still the one who's producing this and putting us live on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and TikTok, but she's gonna stay just producing while we all yap. So let's just jump into it. I wanted to start with Canadian stuff because it's a Canadian show, but I really want to start with that one Canadian opinion about Americans, and that is when Dave Cochrane was talking on Power and Politics, and he said America isn't in this situation because of President Trump. Donald Trump is president because of the way that America is, or something along those lines. I totally agree. And I had brought it up, I think, 2 shows ago, where I had seen another creator on TikTok talking about how we should stop saying Trump this and Trump this. We should say the Americans this and the Americans that, because really it is an action from the country. And I completely agree. And so I started altering my language. But yeah, I agree with what Cochrane said. I think that that Donald Trump is the president, not just because he tricked everybody into letting him be the president, but because there is that culture in that country that is thirsty for a kind of Donald Trump. And the reason that this was brought up was the question was, does MAGA live on after Trump is president? And unfortunately, I think yes, because of the way that America is. But I want to hear from you guys. We're going to start with Fran because she's the guest.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you so much for inviting me. So I guess to the 2 of your questions, one is this, what America is, and yes, it is. It was basically founded in racism against Indigenous peoples, certainly the slave trade. After the Civil War, the anti-Black discrimination and slavery really never stopped. It was just in different forms. Women didn't have any rights, gay people, the treatment of immigrants, Japanese internment, all of those things. So I've seen a commenter that I follow, an academic, who says that basically the Americans need to stop framing themselves from the perspective of their founders, that myth that they have that they were founded in freedom and equality for all, because that was never true. And their sort of evolution of the racism, again, sexism, all the isms, the bigotry, as well as their dwindling infrastructure around education and economic equality for people or the middle class has really led to this. So I believe this is because Trump is there because this is what America is. And people who live in the states that I follow, and a lot of the research is that people voted for him. Yes, the economy, the ones, I guess, who were gullible, who didn't learn the first time that he's incompetent, they voted for him because of the racism and the anti-immigrant sentiment, as well as immigrants, or not immigrants, but new Americans who have immigrant families who don't have citizenship voted for him as well for that. And their families are being, kidnapped and thrown out of the state. So I think this is what America is. That it's not what all of America is. There's, of course, many, many good people, and there is some resistance happening, but this is what the United States is. And at my age, I'm 63. I've spent 50 years watching 60 Minutes episodes, with my parents as a kid, and now, up until recently. And really what that show for me has been 50 years of talking about the decline of the United States as a good place for people to live and have, decent lives because of all of their just the economic inequality and the racism and the myth that they keep perpetuating that they are a free country and that they stand for that, because they never really have. So yeah, I totally agree with that, Christy. And just sorry briefly, because I'm talking a lot here.
That's okay.
On your second point about will MAGA continue when Trump is gone? It will in a different form, because he's the head of the snake, and he is a cult leader, and he is apparently very charismatic for people. So when he goes, and he will go, he's an 80-year-old man, one way or the other he will go. And that MAGA element will definitely be there, but I think that head of the snake will be cut off, and we'll have to see what happens with the opposition, basically. And when I say the opposition, I don't mean the Democratic Party. I mean the opposition of Americans. And how far does this go in their pocketbooks and in the complete destruction of their civil society? So yes, it will continue because it's always been there. It's just a matter of what form. And I don't know what that would be at this point.
Rob, what do you think?
I see it slightly different. I mean, I think the group that we're talking about, the MAGA group we're talking about, they've always existed, and they were never labeled MAGA. I mean, they were always there, right? Most of the time, most of them were in the shadows. I mean, they were, very behind the scenes. They're not out in the open for it, right? Because they, America, the way it was really trending in a more democratic, more leftist world, right? So those people were getting sort of pushed behind the scenes because they realized that in that society they didn't really have a place, and they couldn't really be who they wanted to be. In comes Donald Trump, who I see he's a chameleon. He's not this, I don't think he's this MAGA person that we think he is. I think he saw an opportunity, because I think he's a bit of a snake oil salesman, and he saw this opportunity because he was a Democrat before. He didn't believe in the Republican Party. Like he thought they were a joke, but he's now part of the Republican Party because he saw what he could do within this party. He saw it's the ultimate con. He got this ultimate con where I'm going to make a ton of money. This is what we're going to do. And I don't care how we do it, but we're going to use these people, this demographic, and we're going to bring them out, and we're going to be happy about this. And there's a lot of people that say Donald Trump is not racist. Like as a person, I don't know if I believe it. I know, but there's a lot of people that say it. And part of me has to sit there and think, is he really truly a racist, or is he just doesn't care about anything other than himself and his own money, that he's willing to be that villain and be that person to get those people all on his side, and with those policies to promote himself, to be able to get into this place where he can benefit him and his family and become richer than he could ever imagine. The ultimate con. He doesn't believe in any of this, but he's doing it so that he could become a billionaire while being in office and be able to make these deals. And I feel like that's what this has happened. Like this presidency so far has been about him making as much money as he possibly can. And that for me is why I think that's more along the lines of what's happening is he's being used by a group, but he's also using everyone so that he can make a ton of money, and everyone knows it. And that's the world we live in. And whether, I don't know, someone's got to do something though, because it's absolutely getting insane.
I agree.
People are getting hurt.
Sorry.
Yeah.
People are getting hurt. Like people are getting hurt, and it's only going to get worse.
So I understand what you're saying about you don't know if he's a racist. I'm going to say at the very least, it's not off the table for him. Yeah. However, I agree that if it was more profitable to be anti-racist, that he would be the biggest anti-racist that you had. I agree that, I don't believe that racism is his motivation. I just don't believe that he's anti-racist. I think he's racist enough to use it to get what he wants. That's just what I think.
And didn't he say years before he went into politics that if he ever was going to go into politics, he would run for the Republican Party because they were the stupidest people on the planet?
Yeah.
That effect. And I don't think it really matters whether I do believe he is a racist. He comes from a racist family. His father was charged with all sorts of offenses in New York City around rents and all of that. He refused to rent to Black people. I think that whether he is or isn't is point for me anyhow. It is what he's doing to people, and that he has used this to his. And you're right, Rob. He's a kleptocrat. He is stealing everybody blind. That's why he's there. But in the meantime, he's doing it through this racist, sexist, anti-human. I don't know if we're allowed to say the N word, like the Nazi word, or the fascist.
I said it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sort of approach. And with guys like that, and he's not mentally well, that's clear when you see him, that it just keeps getting worse and worse. And that feeds into the extreme ugliness of the Stephen Millers and all of the people that are surrounding him, that are sycophanting him, that actively believe this stuff. And then the people that probably don't really believe it, like all of these law firms and media companies and even these idiotic billionaires that are all over him, giving him money and doing whatever he wants. The people who didn't have to capitulate, those billionaires did not have to capitulate, and they did. And now, you know, they're just kind of like falling like dominoes, and that's what's so hurtful to people. And the recovery of this is, I don't even think they're looking at recovery mode yet. They're looking at, if they're lucky, survival mode.
Yeah, I agree. I think that recovery mode won't be considered until you know how far this goes.
Yeah. And they like the cruelty. They really like the cruelty.
They do.
Off on it, and it's the ultimate power. You have full control over an entire country pretty much at this point, because the resistance hasn't really started. You can do whatever you want to people, and they like it. And those ICE guys, I've been watching them closely. All these clips that are playing, it's constant on social media. They are enjoying themselves. They love it.
Somebody had posted a comment on one of those clips, and they said, cruelty is the point. And it kind of got me in the gut, because absolutely 100% that's correct. Cruelty is the point. And it hit me because it's true, and it's just horrific for society.
It is, and it's horrific for the world, because regardless of whether, for myself, I agree with what their stated values were, whether they lived them, they were a beacon of a country to a lot of people. And that is now done, that's over. And that has ripple effects all over the world, not just economically, obviously, and militarily, but also from an aspirational perspective. And there's nobody at this point, Canada maybe, to take the lead on that. But, you know, until...
Well, I think that's what Carney's trying to do. I think that he saw, I think a lot of people saw which path the United States was going, and he had made a point at one point to say, you know, you can count on Canada. So then now what a great transition into talking about Carney going to China. So a lot of criticism. So first of all, no prime minister has been to China since 2017, but a lot has changed over the years. There was a lot of, prisonering. We had arrested somebody, they had the Michaels. That was all resolved in 2021. But since then, there's still been trade tension. So Carney goes over there with the situation that it is right now. You've got Doug Ford, who was expressing his concern, and he wanted to assure everybody it's also the concern of the governor in Michigan, because of their automobile industries, that Carney doesn't buckle to the 100% tariff we have on EVs. He made it very clear, we don't want Chinese auto parts, we don't want Chinese cars in our industry. So right now Canada has, that tariff to restrict EVs coming in. Meanwhile, they're really affecting our farmers. We have, I think, over 70,000 canola oil farmers in Canada who are struggling right now because their sales to China have been going up and up and up and up. And then China's like, you know what, 100% tariff on canola oil. Boom, sales drop. So now they're in a situation. Scott Moe wants to protect the canola oil farmers. And it's 100% on oil, and also a high percent, I can't remember what it is, on seed as well. So you've got Scott Moe saying, hey, Carney, can you go there and get these tariff drops, while saying to Doug Ford, don't you dare drop ours. Interesting position. I think that's my opinion. My opinion is that it's interesting trying to balance the different tariffs we've put on each other, and trying to come out with a deal that's going to make both premiers happy and all Canadians happy. What do you guys think? Let's start with Rob this time.
Yeah, I think this is actually the true test. Like, I really do. Like, I think all eyes should be on this as far as what Carney can accomplish. And there was a lot of bashing of Carney for the way he hasn't got a trade deal with the US, and we're all in agreement that why rush to a deal if you're not going to have a good deal. I mean, there's no point. And I think this sort of is the same thing, whereas now we're going to be looking at what can he do. Like, is this just preliminary talks and nothing's really going to come out of it? It's just more of a meet and greet, kind of feel it out and see what's happening, or are they actually going to sit down and really try to come up with something? And I think that's sort of for us on the outside looking in, it's going to be a really good true test of what Mark Carney can accomplish in his role. If we come out with a great deal, awesome. If we come out with a bad deal, not so good. If we come out with no deal, then that makes sense, because obviously they're just sort of feeling it out. But I think this is going to be the very first real true test of his position, for sure.
Yeah, I think he's, the complexities of what he's dealing with the collapse of the United States and our what's his name? Trump said today, again, he's erratic, but that, he didn't care about Kuzma. He wasn't going to renew it or review it or whatever. If that were to happen, that would be catastrophic for Canada. So Carney knows that. I think he knew that from the minute he took on the leadership, what he was dealing with. And so all of these deals and, frameworks that he's setting up with other countries are setting us up, like you say, Rob, setting the stage for future trade deals, negotiations, depending on how things go. I think this stuff has to be really nimble as well because of the erratic nature of Trump, and who knows what'll happen, as things progress. But I think he's going to, the Chinese they're smart, and they know that they have, huge economy, or their second biggest, I believe, trading partner, and they're transactional. They're going to want, and so will Carney, and Carney will, I believe, I don't know what he's going to get for us, whether, because the conflict between the EV or the cars, the auto industry, the canola, the Chinese EVs, I don't think it's a zero sum or an all or nothing. There can be halfways or middle grounds depending on what the United States does. And I think that's what Carney is going to set the stage for, because the Chinese know that as well. It's not just a Canadian issue. So and I think Carney also knows that we are heading towards peak oil, whenever that is. Like, I think we're also living in this world where these old guys they're so dependent on oil. Everything is about oil, and that is the sole reason or sole basis for growing our economy. And that is not correct. That's not borne out factually. We got to get into the modern world. And that's what the Chinese are doing with their technology and their economy. And Carney knows that. And so I think he's going to go and set that stage, like you say, Rob. And he may come out with something this time. I hope so. But this is a big partner. And he, I'm sure, sees the conflict again between people wanting that old guard oil pipeline mentality versus what is going to be the economic reality as we go forward. Maybe not my generation, but certainly for your kids, it's not going to be oil.
Well, so I have a theory that all conservative politicians are part of the oil and gas family, whether they like it, whether they know it or not. Did you see Donald Trump say that they couldn't find any windmills in China? In China, that has like the most windmills.
It's hilarious. I've been to China twice. It has a lot of windmills.
It has a lot of windmills. So, like, first of all, like, why is he lying? Again, oh no, don't pay attention to oil alternatives. It's just about oil. Just like anytime there's a camera in front of Pierre's face, he's yapping about a pipeline, right? But oil is, I believe, Carney's power when he's going to talk with China, because China was getting, I think, 800,000 barrels a day from Venezuela. Now you got Trump in Venezuela going, we're not going to be paying our debts to China with this, or Venezuela's not going to be doing that like they used to. We're going to be doing it to the States. So I think that Carney's in a good position to say, all right, listen, I can't do this EV thing. This is how I hope it goes. I can't do this EV thing because Doug Ford will kick my ass. What I can do is talk to you about replacing this oil that you're not getting from Venezuela anymore. He is traveling to Prince Rupert, which is one of the deep port or deep sea ports, or whatever they call them, So I think that that's going to be the card that he plays. I also believe that this again, this is just a Christie opinion, but I think China's been waiting for a good shot at the United States for a couple of decades. I think that they have been waiting for this and planning for this and building up their economy and building up their middle class and their consumer base. And I think that they've been waiting for this. And I think that to have an opportunity to talk with the United States best customer or former best customer that they're currently pissing off. You know what I mean? It's like the hot girl's boyfriend's treating her like shit. So, hey, I'm going to put my arm around the hot girl. And wouldn't you rather be, I think that there's a chance that China's trying to, we're the hot girl in this situation too, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a good chance that China's going to want to take advantage of that. And I'm hoping that it results in deals that are favorable to us. I'm hoping.
Well, there's also a wrinkle in there as well. Just recently, Donald Trump basically announced that any country that trades with Iran is going to get a full-on 25% tariff on everything. Well, where does China get a lot of oil from? Iran. So if they're going to end up playing that game, and China is, now facing 25% tariffs from the United States because they're getting oil from Iran. Not that they're going to be like, okay, well, now we're just going to go to Canada, but there is more pressure on them, when it comes to economics and what's happening. It's just, it's very interesting. It's very interesting how it's all comes around. And, and oil always seems to be at the center of it.
Yeah, and I think didn't the Chinese just slap a bunch of tariffs on American something today? I can't remember what it is. So
I didn't see. Oh, perfect.
I didn't see that. You can't keep up.
No,
which is intentional, right?
Yeah, and I had also read that the Chinese only get 4% of their oil from Venezuela. It's not a huge amount. Overall, they can purchase it elsewhere. So I just think that Carney, and again, not being a fly on that wall, but he knows what he's dealing with these guys. And I also think too, he's future focused, very future focused, strategically, not just transactionally. He needs to do both, but I believe he will come back with something, and if not, set the stage. I mean, it was the president there invited him personally, and he did that after meeting him at one of those summits. So he's not going to do that if he doesn't think it's going to be worth his while.
I wonder if he gets a big win with China, I wonder if they go for an election. I think that would be, I hope not. I think that Canadians have election fatigue, honestly, but it would, in my opinion, it would be a smart move for the Liberals to get an election after scoring such a big goal. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. And there were rumblings anyways about a spring election. So I think that if he says, because the Conservatives' biggest slam against him is, he hasn't made, and Rob brought it up earlier, he hasn't made a deal with the United States yet, even though he promised to make a deal. I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that was the exact quote of, I can get Donald Trump to sign a deal. I think that the promise was, I can deal with Donald Trump. And my argument is that dealing with him may not necessarily mean making sure that he signs a deal. It could mean making other deals so that you're less dependent on Donald Trump, so that if he doesn't sign it, we're cushioned by all the other deals. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we have to realize Mark Carney really isn't a politician. I mean, he's not a politician. He's an economist. He's a money guy. And if you, in the situation that we're in, and I think the reason why he got voted in and the reason why I voted for him is for this fact. This guy is the right guy for us right now with the economy and with the pressures that we're having with the United States. And, in my mind, this is what we hired him for in a way. And I'm hoping that we come out with a win, because if we don't, then what did we hire him for? And that's really what it looks like. So I still think, though, we're jumping ahead for any sort of elections, because I'm still waiting for whether or not Pierre Poilievre gets reinstated, continues on as the leader.
Right. That's because coming up.
Yeah, because if he's no longer the leader, then, obviously then maybe we're going into an election. But if he continues to be the leader, I still think that there's going to be a group of people that crop the floor. That,
Yes.
that are like, yeah,
Yeah.
I've had enough of this, you're not going to deal with this guy. You're going to keep putting him as leader. He's losing our election. He's losing our, faith in the Canadian people, like, whatever. I'm out of here.
Yeah, if that happens, then I take back my prediction about Liberals wanting, because they wouldn't need to, right?
No, check the box.
100%, Rob. I think I think he will win his leadership. That's been sort of conservative Calgary pact, that convention. And
I didn't bet on that one.
good. And I think hopefully there will be floor crossers and he gets his majority and then he can continue on, because we really need to keep going in business here, not always this threat of election and all of these committees being hamstrung. Parliament basically not getting anything much done, and we need to move forward. Time is too critical, and unfortunately, you might fall off your chair when you hear me say this. I don't think the Conservatives are equipped to deal with it, because you know how much I like them.
Yes, that is shocking. Shocking.
I just think it would be, I think there will be floor crossers, because I also wonder too, a lot of those people sitting there, like the Michael Maws that nobody had heard about, do you want to be for Canada or do you want to be for the United States when you're a Canadian parliamentarian?
Yeah.
And Pierre Poilievre is for Trump. That is very clear in everything he says and that he does. He mimics, there's just no question in my mind. And I think that, if you are elected to the Parliament of Canada in this very serious time, do you want to be on the side of the government that's trying to actually constructively help Canada survive this? Or do you want to be sitting there with Pierre Poilievre, who's basically trying to destroy us and is not in power? Like, you can do much better on the other side. Michael Ma is in China is going to China with Carney right now. He'd be sitting with, dopey Pierre Poilievre if he hadn't done. He's on the side of Canada. And to me, that would be, at least if I'm not a conservative, but if I was there, would be, and for your children as well, like, do you want to side with Canada and side with power and side with smart? Or do you want to hang on to that loser? Because he will likely win his leadership and they're not going to do it.
They're stuck with him.
And then they're stuck with him. So I agree, Rob. I think there will be floor crossers, and for the right reasons, which is to be on the side of this country and our current generation, but our future generations as well. Because we're at a real precipice. I don't think we're that far away from going the way of the United States if we lost an election.
Yeah, and if there was any doubt in anyone's mind over the way Pierre Poilievre, swings his stick,
Careful.
The when he came out after the strikes on Venezuela and was all, "Oh, Mr. Trump, you're the greatest, way to go," blah blah. You know what? If there was any doubt in any Canadian's mind whose side Pierre Poilievre is on, in Canada's side or the Trump side, he's on Trump's team. He's Trump team 100%. He is not Team Canada. He is not Team Canada, and everyone needs to understand that. He does not care about Canada. He only wants his own version of MAGA here in Canada to side with Donald Trump. 100%.
100%. So again, I only know the Conservative MPs that you see all the time online and on TV, the more prolific ones, but there's got to be others that are really thinking hard about, do they want to be part of, Canada's success, or do they want to be part of this losing team that is going to really hurt us? And I'm thinking that there have to be still some moderates there that would want to join the government to support their country.
Yeah, there's got to be at least a few people that have some sort of integrity and some sort of care for this country.
I think if they weren't so worried about it too, you wouldn't see so many Conservative MPs going out of their way. Oh, the Liberals approached me and I said no. I don't think that they would be trying so hard if they weren't worried. Honestly, it would still be newsworthy. It still would happen. Maybe I'm wrong. And I think probably the Liberals went to everybody. I think that Carney talked about this too in his campaign about how we need to move at a certain speed. in order to be successful in building a much stronger economy. And I think that that's why he's doing it. And you can criticize him for, backroom deals or being shady. It's not shady. He's taking advantage of a rule that's in our parliament, a rule that the Conservatives had a chance to change, but they voted against it because at the time when they were in power, people were crossing the floor for them. So at the time they were like, well, the only people who complain about floor crossing are the parties that the floor is not crossing to. So Carney's only using one of the tools that is given to him within this parliament in order to build a parliament that's going to be able to pass things at a certain speed, which is what he told us he was going to do.
He's doing exactly what he said he would do. Exactly. And if I get his, I don't know if you guys get his, if you signed up to his PMO news releases. I signed up for that early on. And this guy is putting out information. Like, I get more emails from him than I do from my own family. He is moving. And
I want to sign up for that.
Yeah, just go to the PMO office and sign up for his updates, because you get like quite a number of them every day, and they're not fluff. They're significant. They're substantial. They have substance. And even I've seen some of the people on the news say, these political pundits, like they've never seen anything like it. So he is doing what he said he would do. And there is a ton of stuff that he's laying the groundwork for and that he has accomplished. And the other thing too is people like him. Leaders, they admire him. They like him. They like Canada. And they see that we are on this precipice in this world of moving away from the United States because of what's happening. And you just can't divest yourself or devolve from them immediately. But it is happening all over the world if you follow all of these big economies. And the beauty with China, for all of their shitty human rights and all of that, which is terrible. But again, look at the United States. Some of our own examples, tragically, is that the Chinese are also moving fast forward really quickly. If you look at some of the analysis on their energy, their electronics, their just all of it. It's amazing what they're doing. And they've done that in a short period of time. So it shows it can be done. And Carney's moving at lightning speed while trying to manage this country that has so many divergent interests. Like, even, I don't know if you see this fight between Wab Kinew and Doug Ford, about what's that stuff called, that whiskey? What is it that people drink? Canadian whiskey, the one it's made in Manitoba, but it's bottled in Ontario, and it's Crown Royal. Does anybody know?
Is it Crown?
I thought Crown Royal for some reason was from the US, and then we had a bottling factory.
Canadian
and then
Club?
Maybe Canadian Club, yeah.
Crown. Yeah, somebody's saying here Crown.
Yeah, people are saying Crown. Oh, okay. You can see the comments.
Royal
Crown. Royal. Crown
Royal.
Yeah, sorry.
Polly's a big drinker.
Yeah, doesn't want it because it's the bottles are made in the States, but the actual product is made in Manitoba. So Doug, we're out. And Wab Kinew today is like, please, man, don't do that. Like, he's on saying it's actually made in Manitoba. And if you stop bottling it, that's a lot of job loss for us. So there's these huge internal conflicts constantly. And that's one of the smaller ones. And Carney needs to manage that, as well as the United States and the whole world thing. And he's going at a breakneck pace. And like you said, Rob, he's not a politician, which is a good thing, because he's just moving on. He's just moving forward. And that's what we need.
Yeah, we also need him to self-promote himself.
Yeah.
So like the PMO reports, why would they not blast those on everything, so that we could all see it if we didn't sign up? Because if they are that substantial, I mean, it would be great for the Canadian people to be able to see what's really happening and really get an understanding of how much work this guy's putting into this country. And maybe that swings a lot of people, but he doesn't promote himself very well.
Because he's not a politician.
He's not a politician.
So what we like about him is what we criticize about him too.
But he's also comes across as just this really nice guy. Like, he seems like he's just this really down home, nice guy, probably easy to hang around with, probably good to talk with. Like, he just seems like he's a Canadian through and through. Like, he really is. Like, he's just that guy.
He's a really good man. But I think the Liberals are not in recent history good at communications. They weren't under Trudeau. They never defended themselves. They never talked about what they were doing. And
they let him say speaking moistly, for fuck's sakes. I'm just saying.
I have a coffee nut. I'm going to send it to you, Christy. I got a great mug with him saying that. Friend
All
of mine.
right.
Yeah, but and I think with Carney, there's a bit of a problem with that too. And I mean, they're the governing party; they should have access to the best comms people that they can.
Should. I know that. Honestly, it's always been my biggest criticism of them. But when we talk about he's doing what we, this is what we voted for, and the reasons that we voted for him, I voted for him as well. I liked his reputation from 2008 when I'm a big nerd for what happened in 2008. And we can see that the banking crisis came from greedy American bankers. So right now you have this American president who is going after his central bank. What a transition, eh? Or a segue. Going after his central banker because he's not dropping interest rates. Trump wants a 1% interest rate. And if anybody believes that has to do that, he gives a single shit about affordability, open your eyes. That guy is trying to get a lower interest rate because he doesn't want to pay that much on the 38 trillion in debt they are. If he gets it lower, it's a lower bill that he has to pay. So he's going after Jerome Powell, who's the chairman of the Fed. Now they're doing a criminal investigation into him, which at this point, does anybody give any credit to any criminal investigation? They went after Letitia James. They went after Comey. They go after political opponents. This is just so obvious. Anyways, Jerome Powell comes out and he makes a very calm older guy video of, yeah, I'm not backing down. He's not doing this criminal investigation because I'm a criminal. He's doing it because I'm not dropping rates like he wants to. It's my job to protect the rates. I think that if Trump gets what he wants, I think that we see the American economy. I don't believe it'll bottom out. I don't, but I believe it'll take a really big hit. And when you look at other countries that have done this, and by doing this, I mean the political interference in the central bank that has to remain separate from the government. And I'm glad that Fran made a video about this recently, about how Pierre Poilievre a few years ago said he was going to fire the governor of our central bank. And when governments do that, when governments say, you know what, we know more about this institution that's supposed to be run independently, it's not going to be independent. It's going to be we're just going to pick and choose who's there depending on what we want. Your credit rating goes down with the international credit rating organizations like Moody's and S&P. Your dollar value goes down and your inflation goes up through the roof. And I'm not saying this because that's my opinion. I'm saying this because that's what happened in every other country that's done this. It happened to Turkey recently. Take a look. I'm not making this up. So I can't believe more people don't talk about it, of like, if what he wanted to do was feasible, how come it hasn't worked anywhere else? Yes. Anyways, I think it's concerning that Pierre would suggest too that the government should have that kind of influence over the central bank, knowing what it would do to our economy. But it's what Donald Trump is proposing. And for me, it comes down to, again, greedy American predatory lenders. They don't care what's going to be the result of throwing all this money out and pretending that they care about people being able to afford shit. They care about making money off of the people that are borrowing, and they care about saving their own money on their national debt. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think?
So essentially, when it comes to economies, like if you have a thriving economy, you can start lowering interest rates. You can't bottom them out. You can start lowering them. We saw what happened here in Canada. Interest rates started declining towards the end of last year, becoming much more manageable than what they were. And it's only a sign of a stronger economy that you can do that. If you've got an economy that's sort of teetering on the edge, like the United States, you drop those interest rates down. And I mean, 1% is absolutely insane. If you drop those interest rates down to 1%, you are actually going to see a bit of a jump, because you're going to have a lot of people that are now going to get more investments. They're going to go to the banks. They're going to get more money, and they're going to, they're really going to redo their investments, and they're going to essentially load up on this borrowing, but you can't sustain a 1% interest rate. So if I'm borrowing at a 1% interest rate to either start my own business or do whatever, or renew my house or do all these things, and at the end of all of that, I've now sort of over borrowed. As soon as those interest rates, even if they go up to 2%, that money that I just borrowed, I can't afford it anymore.
That's
if I
what
could barely afford it at 1%, 2%, I can't afford it. You go back up to 3 or 4%, and now again you're looking at 2008, where everything crashes. People are losing their homes because what did they do? And everyone knows what happened in 2008. People ended up going out and buying boats and buying, all these different, motorhomes and all these different things, just because now they could afford to rent them in a way, like that. And then all of a sudden, interest rates started rising. All this money that they borrowed to get all this frivolous stuff that everyone knows goes down in value. It's not worth what it is the second you pull it off of the lot. And now they're stuck with all this stuff, these massive, payment plans. And now they can't afford their home. They can't afford their boat. They can't afford their motorhome. They can't afford all these toys that they went out and bought because they thought, yeah, now I can buy all these things. People need to wake up. The interest rates are there for a reason.
They knew that once the interest rates changed, that these people wouldn't be able to. They knew it because they had dropped the threshold of their lending standards. They're like, we're not making enough money because not enough people are getting loans. So let's drop our standards of who qualifies for a loan. Let's start lending to the people we know can't pay us back.
Yeah, and they also dropped the percentage of, so you own your home. And say your home went up in value. That was the other problem, is all the homes started really going up in value. So people were actually then turning around and borrowing off of their home as well. And that was another issue where, now a home is worth, 800,000 when it was only worth 400,000 at the time when they bought it. Now they've got this 400,000 and the bank goes to them and says, hey, we can give you 75% of that money if you want. And I don't even know, I think there was even higher percentages, which, in Canada, you can only borrow a certain percentage from your home, which I think is probably still pretty high. But they go out and they borrow all that money from their homes so that they could go buy all these things and do all of these things. Maybe they're going on extravagant vacations and whatever. But at the end of the day, all of a sudden, wait a second, the economy's not doing so well. Things are turning around. Interest rates are going up. No one's buying homes anymore. That home that was worth 400,000 and went up to 800,000 is now reverted back to 400,000, but they owe 700,000 on a home that's only worth 400,000. Now they're just walking away from those homes because they're like, it's not even worth it anymore. Everyone needs to know interest rates are real. They're there for a reason. And anyone who's trying to manipulate these interest rates is in it for their own game, and they're trying to obviously make even more money for themselves, regardless of what's going to happen to the people around them.
Well, I want to be clear that the reason that the other countries' economy, like the inflation goes up and everything, and the credit ratings drop. The credit ratings drop because of political interference, not because of the interest rate drop. The credit rating drops because the governments shouldn't be the ones to control the interest rates on what they have to pay. You know what I mean? I think it's an interesting position that Donald Trump is taking, because when you look at other times where the interest rates drop, it's at a time where the economy is in peril and it needs a bit of a jump start, right? Like the last time it was that low, I believe, was during COVID. So they need people to be borrowing money and to be spending money in an economic crisis. But Donald Trump keeps bragging about how they're so strong. Their economy's doing fantastic. So why do you need such a low interest rate then? How can you say I need to fix affordability when my economy is doing the best it's ever been? I'm just saying. Fran, what do you think?
Well, you're asking from the perspective of a rational person, and Donald Trump is not rational. He's insane. And he's also a big I incompetent. He has no money managing or fiscal or economics. And he wants control. I mean, he's the one who appointed this Fed chair, and his term is up in April. So what he wants what he's doing with the rest of the government is control. And this one is particularly dangerous because of what you say. It's political interference in the money system. And the whole point of these central banks is to buffer economies against shock and to from an expert independent perspective to manage economies in these very complex economies. Trump doesn't understand that. And he's been able to get away with doing everything else that he's done. He does that, they'll probably go into some sort of hyperinflation, which he can't withstand from a poll perspective because he's already crashing on the economy. And there is a point when people don't have enough to eat that they will revolt. And again, they're not there yet. But if he does this, it's extremely, extremely dangerous. And like you say, there's the example of Turkey. I think there was Venezuela, Colombia. It'll impact their credit rating around the world. It'll impact the confidence that other countries have in their economy. It's just, and again, he will destroy it just like he has with the tariffs and the big beautiful bill and everything else that he's done. But this is very, very dangerous. And it's, again, interesting from the Canadian perspective that our Pierre Poilievre here wanted to do the same thing in 2022, and he wasn't actually resoundingly criticized about that in the media. It wasn't until later on, a few years later, I think during the 25 election, that he was actually asked a couple of times if he would still do that, and he backtracked because I think he realized that was. But again, it shows the mentality and the hubris and the economic incompetence of somebody who would even suggest that in a Western economy. So Trump is just doing this because he's an incompetent. He wants to be in control of everything. And like you say, Rob, again, he wants to line his own pockets. And that's what he's there for. And again, I understand there's a lot of pushback, even in his own cabinet and among financial people who have influence on him to not do this because it is so dangerous. And I don't know what the tipping point is going to be in that country, but that could be it if he were to fire Jerome Powell and put some incompetent in. And try and mess with it himself. It's very dangerous. And again, that's something that Mark Carney understands, which is why he's off to China, and the things that he's doing, he understands the risk and the danger of that. And if they go down, I mean, I'm not saying they will, but if that happens, then that is going to drag Canada the way we are now down with them. And that's what Carney's trying to buffer with all these deals and with our own internal trade, or capacity building. And so it's just based on incompetence. It has no rationale.
Well, if we continue to keep pushing away from them economically and not worrying about them being our number one trade partner, that reliance on the U.S. for trade and our economy becomes less. So if they become an absolute dumpster fire, which I mean we already see the dumpster fire beginning, we're not going to be as affected as what we were. And I think in 2008, when it was really happening, we actually did a fairly decent job of buffering that when that happened. So I feel like we could still continue along those lines. The one thing though that Donald Trump said, and the one thing that he wanted to come out with, I personally thought was a great idea, was if you guys have heard it, the credit card companies, maxing credit card companies to only 10% for interest rates on credit cards. And I mean, you think about that in Canada, especially over the past couple of years where people are using their credit cards. And I think there's reports on it right now where people are maxing out on that credit. And, some of them are they were saying 28%, massive, 28%. Could you imagine if you had a bunch of credit card debt and you're paying 28% on that? That's massive.
So Canada has a cap. It's not 10%. It's a lot higher, but Canada actually does have a cap. I think it's funny that Trump supporters support him loudly by saying how bad socialism is, and then he's like, I'm going to tell the credit card companies how much they can charge.
Yeah, it's funny, right?
Yeah. I'm just saying.
That is good, yeah.
That's the incompetence, the hubris, the contradiction. And again, I'm just going to keep getting back to the incompetence. And again, all those sycophants around him that are allowing him to do this and that are supporting it, because they're also lining their own pockets, right? These guys are all going to come out of this extremely wealthy whenever this regime and transition. They're going to make a lot of money. So they're going to have a lot of money. Hopefully that keeps them in jail.
I have thought about what happens when this administration, and especially with what's going on in Minnesota, and this administration just flat out lying about what's happened in Minnesota, putting out propaganda videos on the Homeland Security X page about what happened in Minnesota. And I'm kind of hoping that that might get people closer to the tipping point when the government is just sticking up for unidentified masked men going door to door asking for papers, armed men. I think that when you see this administration going down this kind of path, and because I compare them to Nazis all the time, especially that Stephen Miller, he's the Naziest of them. When I look at what happens of those guys being on trial and stuff, I think first of all that's so far away, but I really do. That's what I cling to sometimes when I'm reading some of their posts and I'm watching them just flat out lie. That's what kind of calms me down. Of one day, hopefully one day, they're going to be held accountable for this. I'm hoping
they will be on some level, but I think the damage is going to be so horrendous and so far-reaching. But I think, resistance comes incrementally for people, especially in these Western societies where we've had it good for a long time and we trusted in our institutions to take care of us. And now the Americans, I think, are finally realizing, again, there's 400 million of them, but a swath of them, that those institutions aren't standing for them. And I think incrementally where this will turn is ultimately to violence against these ICE guys. And who knows, against government? I don't know.
I think they're going to have a civil war. I do.
Yeah, I do too.
The lines have been drawn. I mean, you can sort of see right now the lines are being drawn, and people are starting to willing to cross them now. And I look back and I think to myself, from the start of this regime, and I'm going to call them a regime, the Trump regime, from the start of it until now, it's been a year, really. It's only been a year. They have 3 more years. And from where they started to where they are now, it's unrecognizable as to what's happening in the United States. The amount of damage they have done since taking office has just been massive, and it's been so fast. And now you have 3 more years of this. You're at a breaking point after 1 year. Everyone's at a breaking point after 1 year.
Like it's hard to see it's hard to imagine what 3 more years of this, if it keeps going at the same pace and the same pace of escalation, that's just so dark to even picture.
Yeah.
Despite all of his, we're just going to be so rich. We're just going to be so rich. This is what you asked for. Yeah.
Well, we know who's getting rich, and it's not the people in the United States. That's for sure.
I think where it will end up potentially, if it keeps going like this, and there's nothing to stop them at this point, is a very unhealthy population because of what's happening with their healthcare systems, their vaccine prevention, access to healthcare. I think
that's intentional.
It's all of this is totally intentional, because when you make people sick and you make them hungry, you can control. And I think they are, what I hear also is that they are building these concentration camps, because I saw an analyst the other day say that the reason, why aren't they deporting more people with the amount that they're arresting? And they're saying it's cheaper to build these, the guys who are building these camps are all Trump sycophants and friends, and they're making millions off of the government for building these camps. And I think what we're going to end up having is forced labor, if they don't already, and probably murdering people just like they did in the 40s. And you'll have this population that's completely beaten down. And I guess which is a tragedy, but that is on them, not to sound unsympathetic. But then the question for me is, again, how's that going to impact Canada and the rest of the world? And that's probably a whole theme for another podcast. But I think they're going to go, if this keeps up for another 3 years, they're going to be sick, they're going to be poor, and they're going to be,
forced labor. I called it like a long time ago. Just kind of in a history repeating itself, forced labor kind of way.
But you can also sort of see what's happening in the fact that like the poorest states were always the red states. Yeah. They were always the poorest states, the least educated states, It comes out all the time. They show that. And what this government is doing now is they are attacking all the blue states that are, have money or are doing well, or even on the borderline with stopping the funding to those states. Like, they are targeting Democratic states to try to drive them down into the levels of poverty that the red states are in. They're not providing them with the funding anymore, especially for like childcare. You look at food, like for funding people's, like, so you're taking away their food, you're taking away childcare from people. You're going to force mothers to have to make a decision on, do I work or do I stay home with the kids? Like, what do I have? What can I do? Right? Like, these families now are going to end up scrambling, and you're creating chaos in the blue states. So I mean, people need to realize that, and it's been said numerous times that never before have you ever seen a president attack his own people for the way that they voted. Like, really, like, he is going after the people that did not vote for him en masse, and leaving anyone that voted for him, okay, you're fine, don't worry, we'll keep taking care of you. And it's out there. It's very clear.
That's such an obvious manipulation tactic. It's just such obvious intimidation, and fall in line, be on team me or else. This is what happens. I also think about, before we went live, Paulie was reading to us a post from Stephen Miller, where he was talking about, hey, ICE agents, don't worry about it. You have immunity. Go and do what you have to do. Let's be real. ICE agents are part of Homeland Security. They're all part of the government, right? This guy's part of the government. This could have been an internal thing. He could have gone to Homeland Security and said, hey, make sure your guys know that they have, and they don't. It's total bullshit. They do not have immunity they can't just do anything. That's preposterous. But he's suggesting it publicly. Now, why would he do it publicly when it's a directive for how you're doing your job? It doesn't need to be on Twitter, right? He does this to intimidate people. He does this so that people who think, I want to go out and blow my whistle, I want to go out and protest against ICE. Oh, wait a second. Here you go. Here's a big bulletin of they can do whatever they want to, and they're not going to be held accountable. It's going to make people second guess going out to protest. That's the whole idea of it, in my opinion.
It's a terror tactic is what it is. It's relatively effective. I see lots of people saying, how do I go out and protest? Like, do I want to put my life on the line? I've got kids, or I've got a job, or I've got whatever, your life, your day-to-day life. And that's something that people are having to grapple with. And there's a lot of really brave, like if you watch Rachel Maddow last night on her show at 6 o'clock, she did a whole thing on how they're resisting. She talked about resistance, and she quantified it and outlined it. And those are the people that give me hope there, because it's a very brave thing to do, and it's a dangerous thing to do. But
I'll watch it.
No other option. Like, what's the other option?
Well, here's the thing. They're Americans. I think that so many of them are expecting some hero to swoop in and save them because they're Americans, and that's what they think that they're doing when they're invading all these other countries.
I think they're completely deluded. And I saw a guy yesterday, he's an American, lived in the States his whole life and went to Amsterdam, got a job there. And he's like walking videos saying, I can't believe how brainwashed we are. I've never been outside of the country before. And there's this they just don't know. And so they are this is the fight of their lives and their generation. And like you say, over the next 3 years, because Trump is not going anywhere unless, he passes, this is only going to get incrementally worse, because the problem with these kind of authoritarian fascists is that there's no end for them. There's no end result. You just keep going further and further and further and further, and hurting and murdering people and destroying their lives to line your own pockets and for your own power. Like, there's no end to it unless somebody stops you. That's the only way that this will stop. They'll never come to a point where they say, this is great. That doesn't happen. That's not the nature of it. And so they're going to have to, or not, I guess, decide that they're going to
have to do something. Yeah. They can't sit back and wait for somebody. Nobody's coming to rescue you, man. You got to do something.
No. And so that's the tragedy of it. And who knows, people, Am I an optimist? Yes, I think a bit, but this is a huge fight that they have on their hands because, again, this is the culmination of their history and all of the shit that that's in their history, and these fascist, racist, xenophobic tendencies that they've always had. And they're at the apex of that now, and they're going to have to find a way to deal with it, or they're going to end up in the gutter. Basically, that's where they're going to live, and we're not going with them.
I agree. And I think the hour mark. So, and I know we didn't get to everything, but I think we had some really good conversations. So I'd like to thank Fran for coming as a guest. And Rob, any final thoughts? I'll give you some final thoughts, and then Fran, final thoughts before we say goodbye for today.
I'm good. I think I said my piece for the day. Thanks. Thank you, Fran. It was great seeing you.
Nice to talk to you. I've said my thoughts as well, and I appreciate that you invited me. It was a really nice opportunity. Thank you.
Well, I will keep inviting you, and I hope that you take up more opportunities to come and join us. For everybody else, if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube, fix that. Go hit the subscribe button, and you can see all of our other past shows on our YouTube channel as well. We are live every Tuesday and Friday at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. If you want to see us talk about any specific subject, make sure you leave a comment on either our TikTok page, on any of the TikTok videos, or on the YouTube channel, and Polly will make sure that they get to us and that we address them in our next show.
Christy has a question, though.
Oh, okay.
First,
you mean there's a question for Christy, or do I have a question?
There's a question for you.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
No, I don't. That's why I was surprised.
Okay. Froggy says, hi, Christy.
Hey, Froggy.
And then A says, what are your thoughts on Corey
tonight?
Yes.
Corey tonight.
Becoming Caroline Elliott's campaign manager for BC Cons.
I think that's a fantastic question. And I'll be honest with you, Froggy, we were going to...
Oh, that wasn't Froggy. It was A.
Oh, A. Sorry. Anyway, I'll be honest with you. We were talking about the BC Conservative race was on our list. We just didn't get to it. But my personal opinion of Corey tonight being North Van Caroline's campaign manager scares the shit out of me. If I'm honest with you, I think Corey tonight is good at what he does. He is a winning campaign manager. Caroline is not somebody I would like to see win. Caroline Elliott from North Vancouver. She's not somebody I would like to have win just based on her social media presence. I don't agree with her. I disagree with her fundamentally on a lot of things. And it scares me that a winning campaign manager is going to be the one that leads her campaign. So I've talked also about how the BC Conservative race is really going to be an indicator of how British Columbia Conservatives vote. If they want to lean more right, they're going to go with Caroline and Corey. If they want to go more center, I think that Daryl Jones hasn't officially thrown his hat in the ring, but Yuri Fulmer has. He's the chancellor of Capilano University, and he I don't know his politics that well, but just based on what I've read about him and his philanthropy, it feels, and again, this just is my opinion, it feels like he leans a bit more to the center. So I think if we see a more center-leaning candidate, and I don't know the other two guys very well, but I think that if there's a more center-leaning candidate versus Caroline, I think Caroline's going to be a big contender with Corey tonight driving that train. I really do, again, because he's good at what he does. But I think that it will be geared towards the more right-leaning conservative voter. Sorry, that was a long answer, man. Sorry.
Francis, do you want to chime in on that question?
I totally agree. That's a real coup for her to get him because he's an Ontario Conservative. He ran with Stephen Harper. He ran Doug Ford's campaign. Doug Ford's campaign twice, I believe. And he, I'm not sure why he would want to come to BC for her because she has no political experience, and she is a huge threat again to this province, to Indigenous people. She's a bigot. Well, maybe that's too. Yeah, she's a bigot. Very anti.
She's somebody that you're more likely to see run for the One BC party, in my opinion.
I was going to say they might as well have Dallas Brody run, really.
Yeah.
But it's a huge coup for her to get him, and I don't know if he knows much about BC culture, the political culture here. But it's a huge coup, and I have been following Yuri. He is very right wing. He is also of the One BC Pierre Poilievre messaging. I've been
Okay, I'm going to take back what I said about him.
Yeah, follow him on X. He parrots Poilievre to a T. Today it was a big thing about getting rid of the tanker ban. It's all that same very right-wing conservative policy. The one kind of funny thing about him is I guess he owns a bunch of A&Ws, and he got, as soon as he made his announcement that he got caught out as being on the temporary foreign worker list of employers, the public registry, and he had to explain that because of course conservatives don't like that. He's very much of the ilk as well, very little in terms of solutions, but the same old Poilievre, Dallas Brody kind of, well, One BC kind of criticisms of David Eby. And so I think the BC Conservatives are really in this extreme right-wing vortex as well. But I do think that for Caroline Elliott, it's a huge coup to get Corey tonight.
And I think that's so unfortunate because there's no center in British Columbia. NDP and right, like I think that there is, I think there's a market for a more center group, but we'll see how they go.
Yeah, there is a Centre BC party that's run by Karen Kirkpatrick, who was part of the old UCP, United, whatever it was, BC United.
BC United. I don't think a lot of people talk about them. I don't think they have a lot of visibility.
They don't yet. I was in a meeting with them the other day. I just thought I'd listen to what they had to say because I'm curious and trying to take a centrist, evidence-based approach. And we'll see at this point they're in organization mode. But Carol.
You know what would be interesting is if we could organize and closer to when the leadership races will go, but it would be interesting to do a live and talk about the NDP federal leadership and the provincial BC Conservative leadership races. I think that would, well, my idea of fun.
Yeah, and you know that Caroline Elliott, Kevin Falcon's sister-in-law, right? Are you?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Brother, so
interesting.
With those politics for 20 years, and so she's certainly been in a peripheral way, but not in elected politics. So anyhow, we'll see. But a huge coup.
All right, so that was. Hope we addressed your question. We good?
Oh, probably, yeah.
All right.
I don't know if they're here. Yes. Christy's going to close it out. Francis, don't leave the room. I'll tell, but let me give you the all clear before we talk.
Okay, thank you.
Can I go?
Yeah. No, yeah,
okay.
You can go.
Just checking. Okay, so now I'm going to say goodbye. We're going to shut it off. Those two apparently are going to have a private conversation. And we hope that you come back and join us on Friday. No idea what we'll be talking about on Friday because things in politics, whether it's in Canada or the States or somewhere else, everything goes so fast nowadays. But yeah, join us on Friday. And like I said, if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube, please do so and make sure your friends and family are as well. And we will see you on Friday.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for
the
gift.
Bye-bye.
Not clear yet. Hold on.